Good morning to all of our wonderful guests. I'm Linda Budge. I have the privilege of being mayor this year here in Rancho, Cordova. And this is one of those years when it's a great time to be mayor because we get to do something wonderful like groundbreakings and ribbon cuttings. I want to welcome all of you, and this is and I'm here on the podium with some incredibly illustrious guests, and this is an audience where almost everyone here is special in some way or another. Some wonderful person who has contributed to this project or who lives here in the first phase of Veterans Village. But I am going to take a risk and introduce some special guests. And I want to start with Helene Schneider. She's the regional rep for the U.S. Interagency Council on Homelessness, and until a couple of weeks ago, she was mayor of Santa Barbara. Helene. Sitting next to her is Ryan Lufborough with Sacramento Steps Forward, an incredibly important agency here in Sacramento County. Ryan. I want to introduce my colleagues from the city, our city manager, Cyrus Abhar, my colleague, Vice Mayor Bob McGarvey, whom you will hear from in a few minutes, and Garrett Gatewood, David Sander, and Donald Terry, all here on the front row. Our city staff includes Kurt Haven, who is a director of economic development and neighborhood services in the back. And we also want to acknowledge our former director of housing services, Reed Flory, who's retired and joined us today. And then we want to recognize our police chief, Chris Pittman, in the back, and his staff, the assistant chief, Chad Lewis, and a couple of other wonderful people from our Rancho Cordova Police Department who have joined us today. And then the other person I'd like to recognize and thank, who actually isn't here today because they're in session, and that's our county supervisor, Don Natoli. Don has been an incredible champion for this project. He and I sit together at Regional Transit, and last night he was telling me that they have a lot on their agenda today and are not able to, and so he's not able to attend today. But we know that he sent Cheryl Venegas, and Cheryl, great, there's Cheryl. So we want to acknowledge Cheryl and thank you for representing the county. The county was the landowner here, and if it not been for their donation, none of us would be here anyway. So it's incredibly important to have them here. So we were here in August of 2016 to dedicate phase 1 of this project, and it now provides permanent housing with support services to over 50 previously homeless veterans who are living over here. And we have been joined by so many of them here in the crowd today, and we're going to hear from a couple, and we are so pleased that we were able to provide, that we were all collectively able to provide this home for the people who deserve it so much. I know the vast majority of us here, including myself, have ties to our military in some form or another, and we know what it's like when bases get closed and all of a sudden the commissary and the BX and everything else that you've had as a service for you for the last 30 or 40 years is gone. And this is the least we can do for all the people who've protected us. First of all, we're going to have the presentation of the colors, and which we'll stand for, and we'll invite you to remain standing for an invocation. And the colors will be presented by our American Legion Post 709 here in Rancho Cordova, and the invocation will be presented by Chaplain Robert Thomas with the Department of Veterans Affairs. So if we'll all stand, and we'll have the presentation of colors.
About face. Shoulder arch. Forward march.
And we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. Salute. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Chaplain Thomas.
As we pray, let us have a moment of silence for the men and women globally at the tip of the spear. Almighty God, Thou who art the lifter of our head, we gather today to bless this sacred ground, Mather Veterans Village, Phase 2, and set it apart for the special purpose of housing and supporting veterans and their families. As the architect of our lives, bless the development team whose vision has brought us to this moment. Bless the financing and community partners who labored to raise resources, honed plans, and laid a firm foundation. Bless those who will construct this phase. May they have safe working conditions. May the jobs created by this project sustain families who call this city their home. Bless future generations who will come here to live. Submit the past and the future with the present, that we may be of one accord in our mission. Bless those who understand we have an obligation to be good stewards of the environment. Help us realize we shall never take clean water or clean energy for granted. Let this structure be the role model for ecological excellence. Bless the support services that will transform lives and restore moral fiber to those who have served. May the transitional housing that is laid instill participants with hope and endow them with vigor and enthusiasm. We pray this structure will remind us to stay loyal and faithful to ourselves and the community that yearns to support us. Let us continue to glean wisdom from the band of brothers and sisters who have paved the way for our resilient walk. Let the experience of our predecessors propel us to soar as eagles with integrity, valor, and assurance. As this phase becomes the center of this village, let us never forget to keep you, Lord, at the center of our lives. Nourish us for continued excellence and grant us wisdom by which we may understand the answer to our prayers. May what we do be done in cooperation with your inspiration, continued with your help, and completed with your guidance. To the one who is always faithful, we pray. Amen.
Please be seated. Thank you, Chaplain Thomas. A chaplain's work is truly never done, and so he is leaving us to drive to Chico to lead a class in PTSD. So drive safely. Thank you very much for coming to participate. This is an important project. It's an absolutely gorgeous project. We're all looking forward to the groundbreaking. But there are probably as many different partners as there are, as we typically say, colors of money involved in this. And so we want to thank every one of the people who has come to join us to talk about their role in the project and their aspirations for it. And the first person we're going to hear from is Matt Chicotto, who represents our Congressman, Ami Bera.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you very much. Good morning. It's an honor to be here on behalf of Congressman Barra, who's in Washington, D.C. right now for legislative votes, working hard on trying to get more funding for our nation's veterans. It's a distinct honor to also be standing in front of you as a veteran myself. George and I were remarking before this, it's not very often you see two enlisted Army guys wearing ties and suits, but he does look sharp, I'll tell you that much. Putting this home together and putting this project together is a special thing that took a lot of time, but it shows and it demonstrates that being a veteran in Sacramento County, being a veteran in Rancho Cordova is the place to be. We have a background of city leadership and county leadership coupled with Congressman Barra standing up for our veterans. And I can tell you that that flag is going to fly high, not in a building made of construction materials and concrete, not out of wood and plastic, but out of a collection of hopes. People dedicated to the perseverance of the ideals that we so wore on our shoulders with the American flag, the ideals that will lift this nation up. This is a collection. This is a home of the brave. And so I can tell you, we had a phrase in the airborne. We say all the way. This is a building that's going all the way. This is a community that is with our veterans all the way. I can tell you, Congressman Barra is with you all the way. I know Rancho Cordova is with you all the way, and so is our county leadership. So welcome home. We're here for you all the way. Thank you.
I'm Assemblymember Ken Cooley, and it is an honor to be here on this occasion as we kick off the groundbreaking for two new phases here at Veterans Village. And I want to say, as a representative of the state of California, I consider myself the least instrumental person on the dais. We are honored to have Ben Metcalf, who heads our Housing Community Development Agency, and Dr. Vito Imbasciani, who is the secretary of our Veterans Affairs Agency. And so I want to welcome you here, and you will be introduced officially in due course. But I know my place, and we have great partners here from the state. And I actually want to tell a little bit of narrative for their sakes. Here in Rancho Cordova, of course, we have a great group of founders. Garrett Gatewood is the newest member of the city council team, as Donald Terry was his predecessor. But Madam Budge, Councilmember McGarvey, David Sander, myself, we were city founders. And this project dates back 15 years, even before then, honestly, but 15 years ago, we were sitting with Ted Gaber talking about a trip we were going to take as a city to D.C. and collectively decided, we need to start meeting with housing and Veterans Affairs in D.C. about this vision of veteran supportive housing right by the hospital, because that fills a particular need. It fills a particular need in their medical circumstance, but a particular need just in its supportive life. I want to point out, I want everyone to be silent for a moment, just listen to that piston-driven aircraft, fixed-wing aircraft flying overhead. Veterans who are in these facilities on a daily basis, they know the difference between a fixed-wing, piston-driven aircraft taking off over here, a jet taking off, a helicopter rotor aircraft taking off. These are sounds which are commonplace, but are going to take them back to other places, other times, other memories over the course of their lives. And that's important because the housing here is not just permanent supportive housing for some folks who will be here, but for some it'll be transitional housing. They'll be coming to this place to kind of fix some things in their lives, reestablish some things in their life. And I just think this is such a wonderful venue. And even for the folks who are here on a transitional basis, they'll be enriched by more than the structure, but they'll be enriched by being back on a U.S. Air Force base and hearing the sounds of their life as we support them. And this sort of project, therefore, lives out that great vision of our Pledge of Allegiance. We just did that one uniquely indispensable American word, indivisible. Don Harper's heard me say that before. This is Rancho Cordova, the county, the state of California, the federal government, living out indivisible in honoring our veterans. So it's just great to be here, great to be a part of this, and I'm so thankful for the secretary and the director to be here yet again amid their busy schedules. And it's a great privilege to turn the mic now to we call him the father of Rancho Cordova, my colleague Bob McGarvey.
I don't know, Don's a good name too, but I'm used to Bob, so I think I'll do that. Good morning. I'm glad to see everybody here. There's such a wonderful day, and it's not raining yet. So, as Ken said, more than 10 years ago, we envisioned a village, a place for veterans to live, services for our homeless and disabled veterans, a place to get them off the street from along the river, to get them a roof over their head. Today we not only have Mather Veterans Village Phase 1, which houses 50 formerly homeless veterans, more than 50, but today we celebrate groundbreaking of Phase 2 and 3, the final phases of this project. Phase 2 will provide 46 transitional beds in services homeless and disabled veterans who not yet really believe and live independently. Phase 3 will provide additional 50 permanent supportive homes for homeless and disabled veterans. Those transitional beds are on the second story of this building. That's Phase 2. Mather Veterans Village is the first project of its kind in Greater Sacramento region. The first one. The Rancho Cordova City Council is proud to have approved and provided over $3 million towards Mather Veterans Village. It's a lot of money, a lot of time. You can't qualify or say how much money it is to give somebody a house. And that's what those veterans are getting right now, a house. A project of this magnitude takes many hands to come to fruition. I'd like to thank the many veterans and partners who have been contributing their time, talents, and funding. In particular, I'd like to recognize a gentleman named Bob Burns, Jr. Now, Bob and I were working on this 10 years ago plus. His father is Bob Burns, who is the Master of Ceremonies for Veterans Day and Memorial Day. Recognize the name for that. Also, someone who knows how to contact people, and he's here today, is Reed Flory. He worked with me for years to get where we are. And Stephen Hessler, who is someone kind of new at it, not at it years, but maybe a couple. But we have so many people who have been working so hard on this Veterans Village. So thank you all for being here today. I want to thank the many veterans here. How many veterans do we have? There we go. Yeah. So thank you all. This is something that I've been working on for a long time along with everybody else. You can't do one thing by yourself. You work with people, and they work with you, and they tell you how things are done or should be done. That's how it's done. You work together. Now I'd like to introduce our next speakers, Bert McChesney, Executive Director of Veteran Housing Development Corporation, and Stephen Daues. I'm not going to guess if I write that. Regional Director, Real Estate Development, Mercy Housing.
Thank you, Bob. And I'm the Bert McChesney, and that's the Stephen Dawes over there. And I'm going to start. And good morning and welcome. This is a very exciting day for us at Mercy and VRC, Veterans Housing Development Corporation as well. This is, the mayor has said this project's, and others, that this project is over 10 years in the making, and that we're here today is a testament to our collective tenacity and stubbornness, if not to our speed. But nobody said building affordable housing would be easy. They just said it's incredibly important and badly needed. Our job today isn't to talk so much about the buildings, but to thank the many extraordinary individuals and organizations whose collaboration make projects like this possible. It's a partnership involving federal, state, county, and city agencies, private, nonprofit, philanthropic, and for-profit agencies, and the real people who turn those mission statements into reality. Leaders of some of those organizations are here with us today. Assemblyman Cooley, Mayor Budge, Vice Mayor McGarvey, Secretary Ambasciani, Director Metcalf, Executive Director Tia Boatman-Patterson, and Mark Stivers, Director O'Daniel, who's here with us. And I want to thank all of them for sticking with us, Mercy and VRC, and being here to help us celebrate the next step in a long process. Now, not only is there a light at the end of this tunnel, it's so bright we can see homes for American heroes illuminated on the horizon. Those of us on the podium get the accolades, but there are scores of folks behind us who also deserve credit. We don't have time to name them all, but despite the risk of offending the many I leave out, I want to give thanks to a few deserving individuals. One is former Speaker Perez, who's not here today, but he was the author of the Veterans Housing and Homeless Prevention Act that provided $600 million for affordable housing for veterans. And we're using a big chunk of it on these projects here today, and he deserved a lot of that credit. George Wiley, who said he was going to be here, I don't know if George is here. He's an assistant to the Speaker, the current Speaker, a good friend, and without question the greatest and most effective veterans advocate in the state capitol. And he was very instrumental in getting VHHP passed. Reed Flory, who's already been mentioned, and now I'm going to lay it on too thick, but he's a real bulldog who helped shape and propel this project for years. Kent Trimble and Susan Block, who are assistance consultants to VRC, who've been an invaluable guide to us as we go through this long and twisting tunnel of affordable housing finance. I want to thank the Home Depot and the Home Depot Foundation for their extraordinary commitments to homeless and at-risk veterans. And Exchange Bank, whose founder vouched for a group of long-haired, angry veterans 45 years ago. And they're still with us today, helping vets in need as the construction lender for Phase 2. We as Americans made a promise to our brave veterans. Fight our wars, keep the wolves at bay, stand the wall, and when your watch is done, we will take care of you. Oftentimes, we have not kept our part of the bargain. With Mather Veterans Village and this collaboration of all of you here, we are. This is the finest example of not only keeping a promise, but giving the best gift you can give a veteran, hope. Warriors of my generation came home to a very different welcome, so it's especially gratifying for us to see the incredible community support for veterans as exemplified by Mather Veterans Village. Thank you all for making this possible. Now let me introduce our development partner in Mather Veterans Village, Stephen Dawes. And if you've ever experienced the stress of building a house, you can imagine the stress of building 160 of them at once. Having a partner like Stephen, who's calm, experienced, and unflappable, greatly reduces the wine budget. Stephen, thank you.
Thank you, Bert. Yeah, on behalf of Mercy Housing and again, all of our partners, we couldn't be more thrilled to be here at this day. I think the significance has been well stated, and I think really my job here now should be to fill in the gap with a few more names of the people who really on a day-to-day basis put their heart and souls into making this happen. And there's many here today who've been doing that for that full 10 years, if not even longer. And Reed, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to mention your name for at least the fourth time, but we can't mention it too many times. But the significance of the continuity of staff and leadership that has gone into this can't be overstated as well. It's the only way a project of this magnitude could have been pulled off is with the continuity at so many different levels of people who have been here for that full time. When the vision was coming together between 2008, 2009, 2010 for for the magnitude, the scale of the village here. The financial world around us was collapsing. Redevelopment was on its way out, and really putting together a viable finance plan was kind of fairy tale land at the time. But we persevered with the vision of people like Peter Cameron from Veterans Resource Center of America, and Reed Florey's just dogged determination, and perhaps most importantly, their commitment to the village concept as a whole. How each phase works mechanically and on a day-to-day basis, and the financing behind it is extraordinarily complicated and important. But the vision that we all bought into was that the sum of its parts is going to be, or the sum is going to be much greater than the individual parts, and that really we were all taking chances at that very early stages of doing this in phases, because not one phase could fulfill the vision on its own. It was really the entire village that is needed for us to meet all of our goals, for the services to operate the way they're intended, for the staffing, frankly, to work as efficiently as they can. And it was that determination that Reed and Peter in particular embodied from the beginning, and that extended to the political leadership and all of our funding partners who have bought into this. So we couldn't be more grateful that we've survived Phase 1's operations for more than a year now, with the hope of Phase 2 and Phase 3 following that. So with that, I do want to point out a couple of other important partners who have, again, bought into this vision all along. First, let me start with a few of the other funders for Phase 3, who happen to be some of the same funders for Phase 1. But Mark Stivers from the Tax Credit Allocation Committee has already been mentioned. But we received an allocation of the very competitive 9% tax credits last year, and immediately started working with our tax credit investor on Phase 1, Wells Fargo, about the prospect of taking on Phase 3. And we have Tim McCann and Terrence Cordero here from Wells Fargo, who jumped at the opportunity. Thank you guys. You guys are standing in the background somewhere. Just jumped at the opportunity amid another financial crisis that was very unique to the tax credit world last year. The last 18 months of the prospect and then deliverance of tax reform was just incredible to have a partner like Wells Fargo on board for us to be able to weather that. Lori Sato from Wells Fargo is also here, who handles the construction loan part of their participation in the project, and we thank Lori for her understanding and patience and perseverance to get us through the closing. A couple other financial partners we should mention is the Local Initiative Support Council, LISC, provided a very critical early pre-development grant. I should also mention that the city's Measure H funds was a very critical source early on to make sure that we were able to budget and design things appropriately that would meet our constraints of our final financing. And then lastly, couldn't possibly be sure I got everybody, but I do want to call out the efforts of a few other people from the development team on the Mercy Housing side, in particular Jeff Riley, who's been managing this for many, many years, from the very beginning. Broward Builders, our general contractor for all 3 phases, is there in the background. Thank you guys. And Mogavero Architects, Renner Johnston, see standing there in the back. Thank you very much. And then we do have a couple of very special guests here who don't often make it out to these events, but really shows how significant this day is to have our two consultants who really guide us through the complicated closing process. Laura Kobler from California Housing Partnership Corporation, and Evan Gross from Govern Barchet. Thank you guys for being here today. All right, I've gone way over my 3 minutes. I was supposed to come up here twice to do all that, and I got cut off from introducing Sarah, so I have to call out Sacramento Housing and Redevelopment Agency for a very special thanks. She'll be coming up in a few minutes to describe their role more in detail, but again, the significance of the agency, and in particular Sarah's role in managing the voucher program, can't be understated. The Phase 3 structure in particular, it brings us into what we hope is a new era in structuring and approaching homelessness in partnership with the agency that we've been striving for many years, and we've achieved I think something great that we hope to prove works very well, and that we hope to extend to many other opportunities. But we have an allocation of 25 VASH vouchers and an allocation of 25 project-based housing choice vouchers. For the very first time in the 20 or so years that we've been doing permanent supportive housing, we think we've finally achieved what we call the ideal structure, where you have the best and most important housing resource, which are these housing choice vouchers, the most effective tool for addressing homelessness, combined with the best of real estate development and services, all in one place, to really tackle the highest priorities and the hardest to house. And we really thank you for your partnership in getting us to this point. With that, I want to introduce Ben Metcalf with HCD, whose significance cannot be overstated, with the contribution of the VHHP programs to both phases. This was both funding commitments for Phase 2 and Phase 3 were the early leverage needed to bring the rest of the financing together, and we're thrilled to have Ben with us here today to say a few words. So, thank you, Ben.
Good morning. Thank you, Stephen, for the introduction. Thank you, Mayor Budge, for your welcome this morning. And thank you for having me here on behalf of the Department of Housing and Community Development to join in this wonderful celebration. As Stephen mentioned, we contributed $11 million to the various phases of Mather Veterans Village through Veterans Housing and Homeless Prevention Program. There were scores of HCD staff that were involved in one way or another in that program, and in particular in this project. And I do want to do a quick call out to John Nunn and Monique Pierre in the back. Wave your hand, who were our two lead staff that really drove forward our work here on this project. And of all HCD folks, just raise your hand for a second. I want to thank the various folks who are joining us today. I also want to acknowledge the various members of our state's Homeless Financing and Coordinating Council who took the time to join us for this celebration. This afternoon we actually meet in Sacramento for our quarterly coordinating council, in an effort to try and really bring together all the work going on at the state that's touching in the homelessness area, make sure that we're coordinated and intentional, and modeling at the state level the good work that happens again and again at places like this community at the local level. So if we could just have our council members also raise their hands. I know there's about a half dozen or so in the audience today. Thank you for coming. So I'll be honest, when I'm back in the office talking with my team, we do get bogged down talking a lot about units, dollars, acronyms that describe a whole litany of various programs. But honestly, getting out today is a wonderful reminder to me and to all of us that this work is not about numbers and units. It's not even really about walls and a roof. It's really about bringing together a beautiful project that will change and transform lives and give the folks who are able to enter into this community the chance to obviously to move out of homelessness, but more than that, to actually move into something much more, to give them a sense of hope, to give them a leg up into middle class, to living full and complete lives, safety, comfort, permanence. That's what it's all about. And I know it's not easy. I think every project, every affordable project is harder than it ought to be. I was amazed just looking at the program. The list of funders on this project does seem to go on and on and on and on. But at the end of the day, when you pull together something that's very special. I had a chance to walk around the property this morning. Actually, again, I was here for the grand opening for phase 1 as well. And I do feel that in many ways it is the attention to detail that really distinguishes what we see here today and the work that is yet to come on phase 2 and phase 3. We talked about on the tour that I was on the fact that in the first phase, the development team brought together a focus group of veterans to actually look at the units and think about how to make them truly feel like home. And the reality of building affordable housing is that often we have to be economical. These are not palatial apartments. These are small, efficient units that are providing what folks need. But in the design, certain adjustments were made to make sure that, particularly for the veterans coming back, who have had sometimes challenging experiences dealing with smaller spaces, that things happened like the ceilings are up a little bit to give a little bit more air above your head. And the windows are larger than you sometimes find in other projects. I was joking with two residents, Ed and Ernesto, and I said, hey, you must be so excited. We're finally bringing in these next 2 phases. We're going to have more activity, more vitality, more of a community. And they nodded their heads very enthusiastically and said, yes, we're really looking forward to the construction, particularly because our windows are double paned. And we won't have to hear the noise of the building going up. Bottom line, I'm proud to be here. I know my team at HD is proud to be here, proud to be a part of this from start to finish, and looking forward to coming back when we have the next grand opening for these future phases. Keen to have this one built and hoping that we'll see many, many more projects in the Sacramento region pulling together the same funding sources and serving even more of the desperate need that we know we have. I'm going to turn over now to my partner in crime in the Veterans Housing and Homeless Prevention Program, Secretary Vito Imbasciani. He and his team have been a delight for us to work with at HCD in terms of problem solving Veterans Housing and Homeless Prevention Program now in its 3rd year, and making sure that it really delivers on that vision of integrated housing with services that changes lives in significant ways. Dr. Imbasciani joined CalVet in 2015 as the secretary there, and I know I've seen him, and I worked together with him for the last 2 years. I've seen the ways in which he's really revitalized and re-energized the mission of that agency. He's brought a wealth of experience from his work in medical practice, private practice. He served as a state surgeon in the National Guard and in the U.S. Army. But mostly he's brought a willingness to collaborate and participate and partner, which I am grateful for, and I look forward to the work we're going to continue to do together. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ben. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and what a happy day. Thanks, everybody, for being here today as we celebrate not the start, but the growth of Mather's Veterans Village. And I want to take a second to recognize my esteemed colleagues. I'm in very august company up here on the dais, and our partners on this project, Assemblymember Ken Cooley from District 8, Mr. Assemblymember, Mayor of City of Rancho, Cordova, Linda Budge, the 3 prime movers, sounds very religious, I know, of this project at Mather, Mercy Housing, Veterans Resource Center of America, and of course the City of Rancho, Cordova. Ben said that the list of people responsible for this project goes on and on. Ben, there's only one thing you could say that would be better than that, and that would be that the list goes on and on and on and on. May it always be so. As well as fellow agencies at the state, the Department of Housing and Community Development that Ben leads so well, so admirably and so efficiently, the California Housing Finance Agency, and the California Tax Credit Allocation Committee. So today represents a very proud milestone in Sacramento County's continued effort to end veteran homelessness. Mather Veterans Village will fill a critical need for veterans and their families in the Rancho Cordova and Sacramento areas by supplying transition housing and services to homeless veterans and those at risk for homelessness. So today in my very short remarks, I want to touch on two themes that will require ongoing focus, and that includes the need for affordable housing and the assistance that we give veterans who experience homelessness and at-risk veterans and their families. California has the honor of being the state with the largest veteran population at nearly 1.7 million veterans. With this honor comes the challenge of also having the most veterans experiencing chronic homelessness. Last year, 10% of the nation's veterans, but 29% of veterans experiencing homelessness throughout America reside in California, including more than 450 homeless veterans within Sacramento County. And with this truth, with this fact, comes the question: how do we assist our veterans and their families who may be experiencing homelessness or who are at risk for homelessness? And nearly 4 years ago, in response to this powerful question, and in a show of support from Governor Brown, my boss, our legislature, and California voters, $600 million were set aside for the sole purpose of helping fund projects just like Veterans Village here at Mather. We did this through the Veterans Housing and Homeless Prevention Program, or VHHP. CalVet works with our partner organizations, including HCD and CalHFA, as custodians of this program, and working together, as Ben just recently described, we've created a fair and competitive process whereby builders can compete for the necessary funds to construct affordable housing just like the one that will stand right here at Mather Village. Our VHHP program has become a beacon of hope for our at-risk veterans facing homelessness. Mather's Veteran Village received nearly $5 million in VHHP funding for 46 transitional housing beds for Phase 2 of the project. Phase 3 will receive an additional $6 million in VHHP funding for 50 permanent supportive and affordable housing units. The entire Mather project will be dedicated to serving veterans and their families who are experiencing homelessness or who are at risk for the same. This is a program that clearly delivers tangible relief to a population that needs it the most. Yes, VHHP authorizes funds for brick and mortar projects, but as we all know, that's only half the mission. This program also offers important services that our veterans need to thrive, including veteran-specific resources in healthcare, substance abuse counseling, case management, assistance in applying for veteran benefits, and employment services. That reminds me of a quote in particular from Irish novelist James Joyce, who said rather cryptically, "The longest way around is the shortest way home." The Veterans Village here at Mather will be the path forward to a new home and a new life. By offering this kind of supportive housing option, at-risk veterans in Sacramento County will have more of the help that they need in order to thrive. CalVet wants to reassure veterans that we are a trusted partner working to build and nurture local, regional, and statewide collaborative projects such as this one. So I want once again to recognize and applaud the hard work of our partners, the City of Rancho Cordova, Madam Mayor, Northern California Veterans Administration Medical Center, the Veteran Resource Center of America, as well as all of the community leaders joining us today. We all together work to improve the quality of life for our California veterans and their families. We promise to continue working for all veterans in California in the future. So thank you one and all, and congratulations.
It is great to be here on such a wonderful occasion and to be part of the groundbreaking ceremony for the next two phases of Mather Veterans Village. on behalf of SHRA and Executive Director Lachelle Dozier, who regretfully could not be here today because she is with Supervisor Natoli at the Board of Supervisors right now. It's a great honor and privilege to be part of this important celebration. I'd like to congratulate Mercy Housing under the leadership of Stephen, again, for reaching this major milestone. I remember being here for Phase 1, the groundbreaking, and for the Phase 1 ribbon cutting ceremonies, and the success of that phase speaks volumes, and here we are today. This project is going to make a positive and significant impact on our veteran families. After serving our country on our behalf, it is our turn to say thank you and help those who have returned from duty to face daunting barriers that has led to homelessness and hopelessness for some. Transitioning from active duty to civilian life is not easy, and I know that firsthand. I am married to an Air Force veteran, just got married last year, my name changed, who served our country for 24 years and retired just a few years ago. He's actually sitting back in the audience here supporting this project. And so transitioning from active duty to civilian life is very hard. Trust me, I know. And it is the support and housing in our community that can make a difference in a veteran's life. And so now it's our turn to serve our veterans by helping those who need a hand to rebuild their lives, starting with housing opportunities that can put veterans on a path forward to a stable living environment. We could not do our work without the public, private, and nonprofit partnerships that are represented here today. With the leadership of Congressman Barra, Assemblyman Cooley, the County Board of Supervisors, especially Supervisor Natoli, and the Rancho Cordova Mayor and Council, and in partnership with Mercy Housing, Veterans Resource Center of America, and the VA, who has been a great partner with us, we are glad to do our little bit and provide a total of 50 housing vouchers for Phase 3. These are 25 project-based vouchers and 25 VASH vouchers. And of course, this is coupled with the services provided by our service providers. The Housing Choice Voucher program that I administer houses about 36,000 residents daily. And part of this program includes a veteran program called VASH, where we serve over 500 homeless veterans through this program. We are so humbled by the experiences we hear from our veterans every day and what they have had to overcome to get where they are. I was doing the homeless point in time count last January, which was organized by Ryan and Sacramento Steps Forward. And I, of course, brought my 2 teenage daughters. And of course, they had never had walked the streets at night that late. And I was assigned to Richards Boulevard. And there were a lot of families that were living in their vans and their cars. And we were told if they came out of their car to talk to them, and this couple came out of their car to talk to me. And then the back door opened, and a 6-year-old boy came out of the car, and that was their grandchild who was going to Mustard Seed School, the sweetest boy who just wanted to get something from the closest McDonald's. They had been living in their car, which does not run anymore, for the past year, and the grandfather was a veteran, or is a veteran, and looking for housing, and he has a voucher in hand. It was just really, really heartbreaking to hear that story and other stories. But projects like this give us hope that that veteran I met and other homeless veterans can soon find a place that they can call home again. So while I am standing here at the podium, I would like to recognize my staff who again work very closely with our homeless veterans on a daily basis to serve the 500 veterans we have on the program, and they deserve all the credit. They helped us get permission from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD, to utilize these vouchers for Phases 1 and for Phase 3. And they also work closely with our partners to house the veterans in Phase 1, and they will be working closely with our partners for Phase 3. So if SHRA staff could just wave their hand, that would be great. Thank you. So thank you for allowing SHRA to be part of this vital partnership and we look forward to coming back for the ribbon cutting ceremony in March of next year. Hold you to that. No, just joking. So at this time, I would like to introduce George Thomas, a resident of Mather Veterans Village, Phase 1. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I guess it's true what they say, huh? They say the best for last.
That's right.
Well, I've been a resident here for the past 2 years. I moved in January 7th, 2016. And I was speaking with my sister yesterday, and I told her it was 2 years, and she said, wow, it seems like it was only last year. Time doesn't wait for anyone. But, you know, it's just such a blessing. First, giving honor and thanks to God for building this place for the veterans that needed a place to live. And I do have a place that I can call home now. It's been so much of a blessing, giving thanks to SVRC, Mercy Housing, and all that are associated with the building of Mather Veteran Housing. I'm not homeless anymore. I have a place that I can sleep, a place that I can eat, a kitchen to cook my own food, a bathroom, and a living room to watch my movies on TV. But you know, after moving in here, things have changed, but it's not perfect. But the thing about it is that we don't run from our problems anymore. We work through them and look for solutions. And that is a blessing too, because in the past, we wouldn't try to work through a solution. We would work around a solution, which leaves the problem still there. But now we're beginning to solve problems in our lives and move forward. And that's thanks to a place that we can call home, the staff that works here that help us with every situation that goes on in our lives, even up until today. So it's truly a blessing to be here. It's truly a blessing to be associated with the people that has built this program, not program, but housing. And I'm just honored and thankful that I have a place that I can call home. There's 50 units here, and there's 49 other people that is just as happy as I am to be here, to be taken off the street and have a place that we all can call home. It's truly a blessing. My name is George, and again, thank you for all showing up to be a part of this. Good morning.
George, thank you so much. It's really important to all of us to hear the stories like yours. And I know there are a lot of the people who live here at Veterans Village. Would you all stand so we can recognize you? That's wonderful. Thank you all. Probably the last two groups of people that we need to thank, and in the an amazing array of partners that we have here, are the Veterans Administration Hospital, Northern California, and they're represented by Tracy Pullman over here. So we want to thank the hospital. From day one, it's been readily apparent that there could not be a more logical place to put this than across the street from the hospital where they get medical services. So thank you, Tracy, and thank the Director Stockwell. And finally, we want to thank our voters and our taxpayers here in Rancho Cordova. Measure H was mentioned, our Community Enhancement Fund. About 4 years ago, the voters in Rancho Cordova entrusted us at the city with their tax dollars, approving another sales tax that is directly to provide creative, educational, public safety, public works, artistic, sports-related, youth-related, all of these programs that are truly an enhancement to what we do for our residents here in Rancho Cordova. And if it weren't for those voters, those taxpayers, that would not be possible. The closest project, aside from the Veterans Village, one of my neighbors, one of our wonderful artists, Robin Moyer, has just completed or is completing the beautiful mosaic murals that you see all over the planter boxes in the courtyard. So just thank the voters in Rancho Cordova. And I will tell you, on behalf of all my colleagues, we are so proud. Everywhere in this country, people talk about doing something for homeless veterans. And here in Rancho Cordova, thanks to all of you, we're able to do that. It's not just talk here in Rancho Cordova. We're actually providing a home, as George says. And that is so important to all of us as basically an Air Force town or an Aerojet town. We're part of the military industrial complex, if you want to call it that. But we are so proud to be able to do that, and thank you all sincerely.
Oh, you guys are great. Okay, everyone, why don't you give us a pose before you dig? Okay, everyone, and 1, 2, 3. Okay, what do you guys think? You think you can dig into that dirt? All right. So we'll wait till you get some, and then we'll throw it in the air. But let's get everybody to get some. Oh, that's great. Okay, everybody give us a pose picture. Oh, nice. Okay, you ready to throw it?
Yeah.
Okay, don't go too far. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Duck! Good job, guys.
Thank you for coming across the journey.
Okay, I'm missing you. Yeah, there we go. Okay, everyone, let's do another pose photo here. Okay, let's do one more pose photo.
Everybody looking at up here?
What makes you smile?
Okay, and 1, 2, 3. Yeah.
Cheapest shovel I've ever.
Okay, look. Okay, everybody look at me.
Sister.
Look at you.
Look at
There's 100 photographers out there.
More fun than looking at me. Aw, thank you.
Okay, we get a couple on you. Right.
I mean, what are you doing?
All right. You guys, you want me to sign these photographs?
Checks.